How's it going, everyone? I hope you're all having a fantastic day. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about some shows from the current anime season. Now, winter 2021 has some bangers in its lineup, most notably the final season of Attack on Titan and the second season of ReZero, as well as some other notable sequels. But for this video, I'm going to avoid talking about the sequels since they have all the publicity they need due to the phenomenal work they have already displayed in the previous seasons. So instead, I want to bring some attention to the underdog shows that only have this season to make a name for themselves, and could either be a hit or a missed series. But to me, they were well worth the watch. Now, I just want to clarify, these shows are not bangers. They don't compare to some of the other shows that are currently airing. It's just that they are an awesome seasonal anime that should definitely receive some attention from the fan base. Now, before I begin discussing them, I first wanted to give a disclaimer. I haven't seen all of the anime that have come out this season. And there is this one Hortensia saga that has caught my attention because it reminds me of the heroic legend of Arslan and Yona of the Dawn. I do want to see it, I just haven't had the chance to yet. Feel free to let me know in the comment section down below if it's better than these three, and if it is, I'll be sure to check it out. With that out of the way, let's get started. The first show I want to talk about is one that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is So I'm a Spider, So What? The show follows an unnamed protagonist who gets reincarnated into another world as a helpless little spider. She is forced to fend for herself from the moment she is born and struggles severely just to survive. I'm attached to this show because I've been reading the manga for the past year or so, and I absolutely love it. Granted, the manga is not the original source material, so I can't say how faithful it is to the light novel. But all I can say is that the anime is not a one-for-one adaptation of the manga. Despite having the fight scenes be less intense, especially the fight against the monkey horde, which the anime just sprinted through instead of taking their time with it. Like, personally, that fight is my favorite fight from the series. I mean, there is one better in the future, but that fight doesn't carry the same level of thrill and shock as the fight against the monkey horde does. Like we see in the anime, our girl is pushed to her absolute limit, but miraculously finds a way to survive at the end. In the manga, she struggles a lot more. The end results were the same, it just took a lot longer for her to put herself in an advantageous position to seal the deal and defeat the final three foes. Despite being rushed and having poor animation, the show is still really good. One thing the anime has over the manga is that it shows what's going on with the protagonist's classmates who also got reincarnated. It adds a layer of hope along with a tale of despair and misery. The story's strong point is how it tells a tale of overcoming adversity using one's wit and cunningness to escape a desperate situation and relying on oneself for motivation. Personally, I'm a fan of shonen anime and I love the whole relying on others instead of going through tough situations alone message that all shonen shows have. But what if you don't have others to rely on? This anime shows that you can rely on yourself by always focusing on the positives and doing everything you can before giving up. It presents the viewer with alternative ways of looking at a grim situation, and instead of lying down and letting the world beat you down, it shows everyone that as long as you still have the will to keep moving, you will find a way out of the darkness. The positive message combined with the awesome storytelling and intense action scenes makes this show a must-watch or a must-read if the animation is a little too low tier for your taste. The next show I want to give attention to is Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. It's a show about a 34-year-old shut-in who got kicked out of his home only to get hit by a bus and reincarnated in another world. Now, this may seem to be the premise of your typical isekai anime, and you would be right, for you see, Jobless Reincarnation is the original isekai. Before the Sword Art Online anime came out and popularized the trapped in another world or isekai genre, there was a web novel that was extremely popular for its incredible depiction of how someone awoke in a fantasy world with their memories intact. That web novel happens to be Mushoku Tensei, and the current anime adaptation has the potential to be just as popular as the web novel. I say possible because the common tropes we see in isekais nowadays originated from the web novel, so this show won't be bringing in anything that we haven't seen before. However, I do love how the main character wasn't born a prodigy, but instead studied the basics of magic from an early age and even experimented using information from his world. I know we have seen him before in other isekais, but with this we see Rudy, the protagonist, reading from a spell book. The book claims that spells need an incantation to work. Rudy remembered some of the games and shows he's seen and wonders if the incantations are absolutely necessary and tries casting a spell by visualizing it. When he focused on casting a spell, a small ball of water formed in his hand and fell to the ground. After practicing the spell for a bit, he ended up collapsing from a lack of mana. He wanted to improve the quality of his spells and the amount of times he could cast it. But when he read the spellbook, it talked about how a person's magic capabilities are decided from the moment they are born. Rudy didn't believe it, and he started practicing using the spell, and of course the spell improved along with the amount of times he could cast it. The fact that he could not cast multiple spells or even have a powerful spell from the get-go set him up to have room to grow, and that's supposed to be this show's selling point. It's not a fantasy show following an overpowered main character. It's a show following a man who screwed up his life and gets a second chance to actually make something of himself. The show is more of an isekai slice of life rather than a fantasy. The web novel focuses more on Rudy's development and growth, rather than having super-powered battles from the very start of the story. Granted, Rudy is learning at an incredibly faster pace than the other characters in the show, but he's not overpowered, and the show does remind us of that. Rudy does have a lot of room to grow and develop, and that is what the story is about. I'm just worried that the anime may take too much creative liberty and change the story for the worst. But since I have not read the web novel, I will probably not notice if it did. Now, the only bad thing about Jobless Reincarnation is that the web novel received a lot of criticism for how overly sexualized it was. But seeing how it's in an anime format, I don't think a lot of people are actually going to care about that. Lastly, I wanted to talk about my current favorite non-sequel anime from this season. Suppose a kid from the last dungeon Boonies moved to a starter town. Now, I have mentioned this before, and I will say it again. I love shows that can make me laugh, and this show has me dying. The premise is simple. A kid named Lloyd moves from a small town village to the capital city in order to fulfill his dream of becoming a soldier. Lloyd is a kind and humble person. He understands his weakness and uselessness, but doesn't want to give up on his dreams. The chief of his village pulls some strings in order to secure him residence in the city with one of her students. Now the student, Mari, was caught off guard by this, but still accepted Lloyd. She then learned that Lloyd didn't understand his power. Apparently, Lloyd wasn't as weak as he thought he was. He spent 3 days straight running from the end of the continent to the capital, and along the way, he ran past some incredibly powerful monsters, which he mistook as insects and wild animals. When Mari informed him that they were monsters, he told her that monsters are incredibly powerful creatures that try to take over the world. Mari responded by completely losing her mind and telling him that those are demon lords, the most powerful creatures in existence. Lloyd has no clue about how powerful he is, and assumes he's incredibly weak. So he goes around telling people he wants to be a soldier despite knowing he's probably not cut out for it, only to have some incredibly skilled people be able to tell right away that he's an incredibly dangerous person. Most of them instantly freak out the moment they see him and either try to run away or attack him. But Lloyd, being the ignorant person that he is, tries to ask them for advice and get some type of emotional support from them. This show's entire selling point is not its story, not at all, but the comedic situations that the main character gets himself into due to his ignorance and lack of common knowledge. One of the funniest moments in the entire series occurs when a bunch of giant locust monsters start attacking the capital. A soldier got scared and tried to hide. When Lloyd discovered him, the soldier admitted that he's never fought a monster before, and all he could do was cower in fear in their presence. Lloyd understood and explained to him that his first encounter with a monster left him frozen in fear. By the way, during this part, we get an image of a demon lord and not an ordinary monster. Despite being afraid, Lloyd believes that as a soldier, he should protect the people who cannot protect themselves. And while he was giving his emotional speech, a locust appeared behind Lloyd, and the soldier became completely terrified, like he was sweating bricks. And Lloyd simply turned around and flicked the giant bug away. He then continued his speech like nothing had happened. After seeing that, the soldier was motivated to actually fight and protect the people just as Lloyd was trying to. Only thing is that Lloyd didn't realize that the monsters invading the city were the giant locusts that he would just casually flick away. Like he would run through the city looking for the monsters and just punch a giant bug and scream, "Out of my way, you stupid bug, I'm looking for the monsters." Lloyd eventually runs into another soldier who was being controlled by the demon lord. After seeing the soldier's body completely transform, Lloyd begins to ask him about why he became a soldier, and didn't he want to protect the people. Lloyd begins giving an emotional speech about how a soldier needs to be a symbol of peace for the people. This speech got to the soldier, and he began fighting the demon lord's control, and was about to be freed. Then Lloyd yelled at him, stating that he shouldn't get drunk and put on a silly costume. The mental shock caused the Demon Lord to retake control of his body and attack Lloyd. Luckily, he was no match for Lloyd and was easily knocked out. Simple scenes like this that just come out of nowhere are what makes this show so great. I laughed for like a solid 5 minutes. Like, I had to pause the episode because I was laughing so hard. I couldn't pay attention because of it. My only concern is that the jokes may get old and stale, but it seems like they were setting up something a little more serious in the future episodes, so hopefully the show keeps its quality content for the rest of the season. That has been the 3 seasonal anime that I believe should garner more attention from the fanbase. They are all pretty well written. One of them may be a little rushed and has some poor animation, but the story is pretty good overall. And they all have their own unique selling points. Whether it was having a positive message or just being a really well written sitcom-esque show, they all have something that makes it really entertaining and interesting to watch. With all of the sequels coming out this season, I believe these shows are the ones that will stand out as the top seasonal anime of winter 2021. That's going to be it for this one. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm looking forward to seeing you all in the next one, and remember to keep having fun. See ya!